every helmet lends itself specifically in different ways so that the words, man, words. We have a couple more helmet mounts that we've created for the FXR helmets. These are the FXR Helium and the FXR Blade helmet. FXR has been one of those helmets that has been heavily requested from people who want to buy our mounts, so we finally got around to it. This is the first time you're seeing our mounts. Basically what we're doing is we're designing and making helmet-specific GoPro chin mounts or action camera chin mounts. You can use them for anything. They're helmet-specific, which is pretty cool. You can see the difference between these two. They're not the same mount at all. So every one of our mounts is specific. So when you go to buy a mount off of our website, which the link will be in the description below, you'll want to make sure that you're looking at the right helmet because they're not all the same. That should be relatively apparent, but just in case. Getting into these mounts, they're helmet specific, and we also take the time to figure out what the distances you need from the helmet to the mounting forks. So that way, when you're riding, you can get a tip back angle to actually make it so that way you can get a horizontal view of the horizon. What we're finding is that when you're standing on a bike, your helmet's usually tipped down, something like that, and the top of the viewport here is parallel with the horizon. So what we do is we make our mounts so that the camera will sit so that the lens of it is parallel with the top of the viewport, so that way you get that kind of optimal view of the terrain, and it's not just like pointed straight down at your bike, so you get like 10 feet of trail, and that just kind of sucks because you can't see kind of where you're riding. So one of the other things that we did was we reversed the screw direction. You can see here it goes in as you're facing the helmet from right to left, and that's because the battery side door on the newer GoPro Hero 8, 9, and 10, they put the battery on the side here, and it allows you to get to the battery easier when the knob of the screw is on the opposite side. So here you can see the tilt back angle of the GoPro on here. You know, and it has to be relatively specific to the helmet because you can see sometimes you get these like weird helmet features that really don't need to be there, but they put them on there for styling and whatever. So it's really important that the mount is specific to the helmet because, you know, like that, you have to be able to work around these weird design features that the helmet manufacturers put on. One of the last things that we did was we incorporated these little tick marks in the side of the GoPro mount fork here. And the reason we did that was to give you some visual indication of where you've tipped back the helmet to, or the mount, the GoPro to. And in most cases, what I like to do is just look at the helmet from the side, tip it back so that it's horizontal, and that's good enough. But in some cases where you might be sitting down more, or if it's like an ADV helmet, you might want to tip the camera forward. And if that's the case, you might have a need for these tip marks, allow you to see where you've set the camera angle to, so that way it can be consistent every time. We get some questions about how these mounts are mounted to the helmet. We used 3M mounting tape. It's super secure, it holds up to about 20 pounds per mount, and obviously that's a lot more than your camera weighs. So very secure. We're using probably 2, 3, 4 times as much as the GoPro sticky helmet tabs that GoPro sells for helmet mounting. So these just have a lot more surface area, and they're clamped from both sides, so it just gives you a very stable perch to mount your camera to. It's just not going to go anywhere. So just real quick on how we manufacture these. They're all 3D printed right now. And that gives us a lot of flexibility in the way that we manufacture these. It allows us to incorporate new and updated design changes. Things like one of the first things that we did was we went through and we thickened up the mounting forks to just make them more secure. But one of the things that we're doing now is we're actually changing the filament material, or the material that we print these with, to more of like a rubber-like material to keep the material from breaking. So it's just going to be able to take an impact and bounce back to where it was. And you really should never have a problem with these things breaking after that. This plastic that we use now is pretty rigid, and we found that guys will face plant into the dirt, or they'll hit their face in the handlebars or something like that. And yeah, I mean, the mounts will break occasionally. It's not very common, but they will break if they get hit hard enough. So that's just one of the benefits of 3D printing, is now we're taking that into consideration, and we're making updates to products to make it better all around for the customer. Another thing we get asked a lot is whether or not our mounts will work with the media mod. And of course they do. It's the same thing, you get the tilt back angle and all of that. One of the things that seemed like it might be a problem for some people was how the reverse screw direction works. And you don't have the advantage of this little cutout here, because obviously GoPro was planning to have the screw go through this way. But it's actually easier to get the screw in here, because on this side where they put all the electronic internals here, they made this side of the media mod a little bit thicker, and they didn't on this side, so you can actually get more of your fingers on the end of the screw head here. Whereas if you put it through this way, you can't really get your fingers on it. So it was kind of inadvertent, but it worked out in our favor to have the screw direction reversed, even with the media mod. Just allows you to get the screw on easier in both ways. There's been a few rumors floating around that we're using some sort of longer screw, and that's just not the case. We're using just your standard GoPro screw, at least as far as we know. We haven't really compared them to the one that you get from GoPro, but it's nothing special. It's just a standard screw. So those are all the main features of these mounts. I think the last thing I want to touch on real quickly is just how we got into chin mounting, making these chin mounts to begin with. So obviously we've run basically every single different kind of chin mount in other mounts as well, like obviously mounting them on top, basically where everybody starts mounting GoPros to the side, and then we eventually figured out that GoPro mounting to the chin is the best way, because it gives you that lowest point of view to give you the kind of best depth on the horizon. Whereas if you mount a camera on top of a helmet, you've got that 8 to 12 inches where it looks like the camera is looking down on the terrain, whereas this makes you feel like you're really in the driver's seat and you're more immersed into it. Makes it feel like a lot more like what it actually feels like in real life to go over some obstacles. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think other than that, one of the biggest benefits of mounting it to the chin is that you get the full advantage of it being right in front of your mouth if you're doing some sort of motovlogging or something like that, especially with the media mods, because you have the sock over the mic, and you can actually set the preference for the audio pickup to the back of the mic to get your voice better. And that just allows you to have, better audio pickup if you're trying to do more like motovlog style of riding. So the last thing I want to do real quick is show you guys what you're going to get when you buy one of these. It comes in our cool box. You're going to get a mount, which actually here you can see, because this is one of the older mounts, what we did when we made that design change. You can see how this one is kind of thinner on the outside, and we don't sell these anymore. This is just our demo that we use when we talk about how to mount these things. But you can see how we've really thickened up the mounts here. Yeah, you're going to get a mount, and then you're going to get a GoPro screw. We'll throw in a couple of stickers for you, and an alcohol prep pad. And this is for cleaning the helmet. Most of the time, these aren't being mounted on brand new helmets, so what you'll want to do is just like wipe down the helmet when you figure out where the mount is supposed to go. Clean it really well, get all the mud and the dirt and oil and everything off, and then you can mount it after that. Before you just peel off the backing on these 3M mounting pads, what you want to do is hold it up to the helmet and just kind of figure out where the mount's supposed to go. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing because it can just be difficult to tell where on the helmet it goes. So you're going to want to hold it up to the helmet and make sure that you understand where it goes. And these are very specifically fitted to the helmet. They're not going to fit any more than one spot where they were intended to be mounted. So just make sure that you understand where it goes before you mount it up. Once you understand that, obviously peel off the tape backing, and then you're going to want to pull back on the mounting wings. And actually what I like to do is take the helmet and hold it between my knees like that when I'm sitting down. It just helps get the mount on a little bit easier. Since this is a taper, what can happen is if you really pull back on these mounting wings and you stick it in too far, it can be really tight along the front edge here, and it can be loose along the back, and you don't want that. It should just go in far enough, and then you can release it onto the helmet. The reason you want to pull it back is because you don't want to get it on crooked. You want to make sure that you're just going in straight, and this stuff is super sticky, especially with like this kind of textured material, or not textured, but like where it has that really smooth finish. It sticks to that really well, so if you get it on there crooked at all, it's just going to make kind of a mess. So pull back on the mounting wings, put it in as far as you know it's supposed to go, release it, and then you have maybe like 10 seconds where you can kind of wiggle it around before the tape release sets. But once you get it kind of lined up and perfect, press down on the outer edges of the mount and just make sure it's really stuck down all the way around, and after that you should be good to go. Assuming that the helmet's clean, assuming that this is on straight, it's not too far in, and you have it mounted right and perfect kind of all the way around, this thing's gonna be stuck really for as long as you want it to be there. So one of the things, if you do want to take these mounts off, is just to take your thumbs and just press down on it. They're really firmly secured to the helmet. Like I said, we do use a lot of mounting surface area, so they can be kind of hard to get off. They will come off eventually, but the best way that we found to do it is just to kind of twist them off. So I think that pretty much sums up everything about these mounts that I have to talk about anyways. If you want one of these, you can find them in the link in the description below. They'll take you to our online store, but you can also find them on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Facebook, Instagram. They're all over the place. I will put the link in the description below, and also you can find a link to our Instagram, and all of our kind of POV footage is being filmed using these mounts. So if you kind of want to get a feel for what it looks like from the chin mounting perspective, that will be the best place to see kind of what the footage looks like. So yeah, check it out, and we will catch you next time.